Dinosaur is lost.
George's favourite toy is Mr. Dinosaur.
Dinosaur.
George loves Mr. Dinosaur. Sometimes George likes to scare Peppa with Mr. Dinosaur.
Too scary.
At supper time, Mr. Dinosaur sits next to
George.
At supper time, Mr. Dinosaur sits next to George.
I beg your pardon. Was that you, George?
Is Mr. Dinosaur dying?
Or was it Mr. Dinosaur?
Dinosaur.
At bath time, George shares his bath.
At bath time, George shares his bath with Mr.
At bath time, George shares his bath with Mr. Dinosaur.
Good night, Peppa.
Good night, Mummy.
Good night, George. And good night, Mr. Dinosaur.
Mr. Dinosaur.
When George goes to bed,
Mr. Dinosaur
Mr. Dinosaur is tucked up with him. George's favourite game
is throwing Mr. Dinosaur
is throwing Mr. Dinosaur up in the air and catching him when he falls. Game is throwing Mr. Dinosaur
and catching him when he falls back down.
up in the air and catching him when he falls back down.
Whee! Peppa and Daddy Pig are playing
Peppa and Daddy Pig are playing drafts.
Rust. I win, Daddy.
Oh,
Oh,
well done, Peppa. George?
George, what's the matter?
I'm sure.
George, have you lost Mr. Dinosaur?
George has lost Mr. Dinosaur.
Don't worry, George. We'll
We'll find Mr. Dinosaur.
find Mr. Dinosaur.
It's a job
It's a job of
for a detective.
Daddy, what is a detective?
A
detective is a very important.
Detective is a very important person who is good at fighting.
Who is an
Important person who is good at finding
me. I'm good at finding things.
things.
Me. I'm good at finding things. All right, Peppa is
All right, Peppa is the detective.
Just be the detective. George, I'll be detective. I will help you find Mr. Dinosaur.
Maybe the detective should
Just some simple.
ask George some simple questions.
George, where's Mr. Dinosaur?
George does not know where
Mr. Dinosaur is.
Mr. Dinosaur is.
The detective could try.
Detective country and guess where Mr. Dinosaur
Try and
might
guess where Mr. Dinosaur might be.
I know where he is. I know where he is. George always has Mr. Dinosaur with him. It has Mr. Dinosaur with him in the bath. So Mr. Dinosaur is in the bath. Mr. Dinosaur is not in the bath.
Mr. Dinosaur is not in the bath.
Oh, I know where Mr. Dinosaur is. I know where Mr. Dinosaur is. Just always ask Mr. Dinosaur Dinosaur in the bed at
George
night.
always has Mr. Dinosaur in his bed at night. See,
So
that's
that's
where
when-
he is.
Me.
That's where he is.
Mr. Dinosaur is not in George's bed.
Mr. Dinosaur is not in George's bed.
Oh, maybe we should try
we
the
should try
garden.
the garden.
Yes, the garden. I was going to say yeah.
Yes, the garden. I was going to say that.
Wait,
Where
Mr.
is
Dinosaur.
Mr. Dinosaur?
Mr. Dinosaur is very
Dinosaur
hard
is
to find.
very hard to find.
Oh, Mr. Dinosaur isn't anywhere.
George, you do love to throw Mr. Dinosaur in the air.
George, you do
George, you do love to throw Mr. Dinosaur
love
in
to
the
throw
air.
Mr. Dinosaur in the air.
I wonder if this time you threw Mr. Dinosaur just a bit
I
too
wonder
high.
if this time you threw Mr. Dinosaur just a bit too high.
There he
There he is! There he is!
is. There he is. I saw him
I
first.
saw him there. Well done, Peppa. You really, really, really are a very good
Well
detective.
done, Peppa. You really are a very good detective.
I'm sure.
George is so
happy to have Mr. Dinosaur back again.
happy to have Mr. Dinosaur back again.
Whee!
Maybe it isn't a good idea to play with dinosaurs near trees.
Maybe it isn't a good
Maybe it
idea to play
isn't-
with dinosaurs near trees.